So next, to continue, we're going to be talking about then a special line called the transversal. A transversal is just a line that intersects other lines. So an example of that would be here, two parallel lines. And remember we said that we're going to show that they are parallel by putting these arrow markings to show that they continue on and they don't intersect. A transversal will be just a line. I'm going to use a different pen. Actually, we'll use the same one to cut through these two lines. So this right here, this is a transversal. What we've created now are two parallel lines and a transversal. Whenever you have two parallel lines that go on without meeting and a transversal that cuts through it, we're going to end up creating some interesting angle relationships. The first one, we're going to say we see some corresponding angles. Corresponding angles are basically angles that match up. And then they are also congruent because they're the same angle. What I mean by that is when I look at this, I'm going to label these angles 1, 2, 3, 4. This is, we're going to consider this angle 5, angle 6, angle 7, and angle 8. From the class activity that you did, and you measured each of these angles, you found that a lot of these angles were congruent. Well, out of those congruent angles, there are ones that we call corresponding angles. If you notice here, I see that there is an angle right here. It is on the left side of the transversal, and it is on top of this line, In the same way, if I go down to this grouping, the line that is in that same position, or the angle that is in the same position, or the corresponding angle to 1 would be 5. I see angle 2 right here. So what we're doing when we're looking at corresponding angles, I'm looking at the group of angles here, and I'm comparing it to the group of angles here. And I would say that the corresponding angle to 2 would be 6. The corresponding angle to 4 would be 8. The corresponding angle to 3 would be 7. So within that grouping of angles, the angles that match to its position are corresponding angles to each other. I also did just say that corresponding angles are congruent, so we're going to write those out, the angles that are congruent, and this is how you would show it. We first noticed that we said that angle 1 is corresponding with angle 5, which means that angle 1 is also congruent to angle 5. The same way we said 2 and 6 are corresponding, so we'll say that angle 2 is congruent with angle 6. So when I say the angles are congruent, let's say for example, I don't have my protractor measure this out exactly, but if angle 1 was about, let's say, 100 degrees, that means that angle 5 is also 100 degrees. If angle 2 then, because notice 1 and 2 create a straight line, we said that straight lines create 180 degrees, so if this is 100, then this has to be 80. If angle 2 is 80, then angle 6 is congruent, so that's also 80. Angle 3 is congruent with angle 7, and angle 4 is congruent with angle 8. So if this is 100 degrees, then what would we say angle 4 is? We'll look back up here. Remember how we talked about vertical angles? Angles that are opposite from one another. When two lines intersect, they're the same. So in the same way, if we go down here, if we said angle 1 is 100 degrees, then the vertical angle to 1 would be 4, so 4 also has to be 100 degrees. In the same way, if this is 80 degrees, then the vertical angle to that, which is over here, would also have to be 80 degrees. And once we know that, look at what angle 7 is going to be. That would be 80. And angle 8 would also be 100. There's lots of different ways and rules that you can use to figure out the missing angles. You can use what you understand about supplementary angles. You can use what you understand about complementary, vertical angles, corresponding angles. All of these things will help you figure out the missing angles. Okay, what I would like for you to try and bring back to class for homework is, actually we're going to switch that. Okay.